oh, I'm not doing it right. Another person knows it better than me. Another person can do this better than me, so I need to become like them. And in that process, we lose that connection to our natural gifts and our strengths and what's easy for us. There are things that are going to come natural to you. So instead of trying to mold yourself to somebody else, to a business coach or to somebody you follow and trying to be just like them, get really clear on what are you naturally good at.
Embodied CEOs don't chase trends. They pave the way. They lead from within, moved by purpose, unshaken by noise. When you are the source, you do not need permission.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. This is probably one of the busiest weeks of our year in my family. Both of my kids, my oldest two kids, have birthdays 2 days apart, 2 years, 2 days apart. And so it's like Christmas week for us. And so they both have their birthdays. And then they also want to have, of course, separate birthday parties. And so in a 7-day period, I have 2 birthdays and then 2 sleepover parties. Like, we're not just having like a quick birthday party. Both of them wanted, and we did it last year too, partly because my kids are homeschooled. It's not like I can invite this like big group of kids. They have a lot more like intimate groups of friends. So I'm like, okay, if it's a smaller group, we can make it a sleepover party. But last weekend, I literally had kids at my house. It felt like a 24-hour party. I had kids come over and then stay over like camp out in the backyard, and it rained, and my house was a total mess with a bunch of wet clothes, but it was great. Core memories. And my mom growing up, she made birthdays really special. It's like one of the things I'm so grateful for. So many for my mom, but one of them is like holidays and birthdays. Like, she always made it really special. And so I carry that into my kids. Like, I like to take them out on a little special date, but basically it's hard for me to get work done this week, but that's okay. My oldest kids are turning 11 and 9, which is wild. And my oldest I told him this today, I took up today as his birthday, and I took him out, and I told him, like, you being born was a catalyst into my entire business and the entire life we have today. And I explained to him, like, I was a really young mom, and that's not usual. It's cool because he's 11 now. I can kind of have these conversations with him where he gets it. So it's always, special. My oldest especially, both of them represented many things, but my oldest represented the start of my business. Like, I literally, I think as many of us feel with our kids, wouldn't be where I am today had that not happened the way that it happened. So anyways, last few podcast episodes have been fun. We're not talking about any more gym drama. I am done with that. But hopefully they became good lessons. I actually got a lot of positive feedback outside of people who even, cared about this gym. Got a lot of people in the CrossFit community listen to it, but also, like, I tried really hard to turn it into lessons, and it was a real experience. So today I have a few things I want to talk about. It's going to be one of those where, like, none of these were an episode that could be all on its own, but they're all relevant, recent things that have come up in either coaching conversations I've had or with myself in my own business, and I think they're all helpful, and we'll kind of see where that goes. So the first one is this core message I talk about a lot, which is connecting back to yourself. I think is ultimately so much of our journey as a human, as an entrepreneur, is like connecting back to the truth, to what we already know, to our wisdom, and letting that drive your business growth and letting that drive, your decisions and your mental state. And I was having a coaching conversation today with someone who had a bonus call with me, and basically they have a successful business in person, and then they're building this whole online component, which is why they hired our team. And she was kind of looking at it very much as, I built this successful in-person business. I have no idea how to build the online. And so I feel very uncomfortable and I'm in the unknown, which is understandable, right? In-person to online is different. But my point to her was there's a lot of similarities. And so one thing as she was talking that I picked up on was that when she built her in-person business, she did a really good job, and she's naturally really good at networking and building relationships and word of mouth, and like building really strong relationships that built her business. She's like, I didn't really try to market it. It happened at the park and at, she's at the park. She is in the birthing space. And so moms, right, were her target audience. So she said it happened at the park. It happened at like coffee meetups. And so one thing that came out of that conversation that I think is really, really important for every entrepreneur to remember, as I said, just because it's a different, type, like model, right? The digital compared to the in-person doesn't mean that you have to start from the beginning. And let's look at what worked really well to build that in-person business. And let's also look at what came natural to you and is your natural strength. And I was like, clearly networking and relationship building is something that you don't even have to try. You just did it. It came natural to you. So how can we repeat that in your digital business? And I said, have you thought about like, what are relationships you could build with people who have your same audience, but you're not competitive to them, that you can build a relationship with, whether that's you be a guest on a podcast or they maybe promote your offer even. And I said, what if you spent, my strategy idea was for her to spend, like, if I reach out to 2 or 3 people a week and try to build a genuine connection and see where those goes. And that will complement everything my team's doing for her. And so this point I wanted to make because I think that I see this so much, and I see this even in myself, because there's so much noise, because we're constantly bombarded with social media, content, advice, what other people are doing to build their business. And automatically, we normally go to and default to, oh, I'm not doing it right. Another person knows it better than me. Another person can do this better than me, so I need to become like them. And in that process, we lose that connection to our natural gifts and our strengths and what's easy for us. And I know that every one of you, and myself included, we are unique. We have unique strengths that just naturally come easy to us. We have experience, we have wisdom, we have a blueprint of us. We have a way that we creatively express. It is different. That is the cool thing about being a human, right? You are unique. And so nobody has that blueprint that you have. And the more that you can align your business and the way that you operate your business, both in the marketing, to the operations, to the structure, all of it, to complement what is already coming natural to you, what you're already good at, the less resistance you're gonna feel in the path. And when you look at successful people, even beyond business, like when I look at athletes, when I look at very successful athletes, there is an element to their success that is genetics. It's like they are pursuing a sport that they also are naturally going to be good at because of their height, because of their build, whatever. Slow twitch, fast twitch muscles. Same in business. There are things that are going to come natural to you. So instead of trying to mold yourself to somebody else, to a business coach or to somebody you follow and trying to be just like them, get really clear on what are you naturally good at. And how can you amplify that? And how can you leverage that in your business more? And for some people, like for example, when I create content, I'm really good at riffing. I'm really good at conversation. I'm really good at like off the cuff, not really preparing, just talking. I am terrible at scripts. Like when my content girl comes and we record, and if I have like a little script, I have to do it in like 5 takes because I'm like, I can't even remember the line that I just read 10 seconds ago. My brain does not work that way. And so if this podcast, if I made it and I was like, oh, because so-and-so has this overly scripted podcast, or it's very scripted, it's very intentional, it's very put together, that's how I have to podcast. First of all, I probably wouldn't even do it because I'd be like, this sucks so much and I suck at this. And it would have so much resistance. I try to align content creation and how I spend my time, and even the business model that we have, I think is molded to my strengths, is molded to what comes natural to me, because then I can lead a team. I'm really good at experience, which is I have a service business. I'm really good at experience, so I host events. And so I try to naturally align my time and energy, the business model, and where we invest, strategies and how we do things to align with my strengths. Now, that doesn't mean that I swing that pendulum so far that I don't do anything that makes me uncomfortable. I think it's also important that you do things that you're not good at to get better at them. Like I would say in content creation right now, the more I do it, the more I create social content, the more we're going to get better at it. The more both I'm going to get better at it, the more my Social girl Haley is going to get better at like adapting, what works and what doesn't work and my voice, and we're going to build a relationship, and it naturally is going to get better. And there are pieces to the content creation that I'm like, I'm not good at this. Like, I am not good at this part of it. So it doesn't mean never do things that you're not, quote, good at. But I really think in business, if you can align your strategy and how you spend your time and energy on things that you are naturally good at, it's like a competitive advantage. It's just like with athletes. If you take someone, let's just use CrossFit for an example, because I do it all the time. A shorter person has an easier job in CrossFit just by being shorter at most things, because of the weightlifting, you've got less room that you have to go off the ground. The rig, you are easier to do pull-ups, easier to do all those movements. There's some things that they're not, but like you put me right next to someone who's 5'5" compared to me who's 5'10", if we're the same level of an athlete, they're going to do better than me. So it's a competitive advantage. So how can you use that competitive advantage inside of your business? And have you in any way allowed somebody to tell you otherwise? And because I think I could see with this person, not in a negative way, but they had overthought it to the point of like, they don't know what to do. And I'm like, but you do know what to do. You built a successful in-person business. Sure, it's different, but it is just about relationships. You're really good at relationships. How can you repeat that in a new environment? So when you look at your business, look at how could I leverage, like what are your strengths? What would you tell me if I was like, what are your strengths? What are you naturally really good at as a person? If you ask me that, I would be like, I'm really good at moving fast. I'm really good at taking action. I'm really good at creating off-the-cuff content and telling stories and connecting with people in that way. I'm really good at creating experiences. And I would take those things and say, okay, now here's what I'm really good at. Here's what I naturally know. And then also looking at, like, I have, 11 years of business experience, and you can do the same thing if you've been in business for a little while. Like, what has worked really well? What has led to the most success? And then combining those things and saying, can we align our strategy and how we spend our resources to those strengths? And how do we leverage that competitive advantage? And that's where authenticity comes in. I talk about this a lot in marketing too. Like, you can try to chase all day long, the funnel structure or how many times someone is posting content and the tactics that they are doing. We look at other entrepreneurs and people who are where we want to be, and we compare the tactics and we think, okay, if I follow those exact tactics, then I will be successful. But it's not just about the tactics. It's also about the layer deeper than that in terms of the authenticity, the identity behind the tactics, the edge that they have, that they used some sort of creativity. So when you look at a successful entrepreneur, let's say you look at the Hermosis, both of them are very successful. You could look at them and you could say, okay, they're posting this many times a day, so I should post this many times a day. You could say, okay, they have this exact type of funnel, they have this type of offer, they have this business model. I'm going to go take that and I'm going to copy it exactly into my business. And 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be successful if you don't have the unique identity and unique edge to go with that. Because what you're missing when you take those tactics like that, what you're missing is the background, the entire background that led them to where they are today. Like, actually, especially with them, where they basically host these events and they have investment portfolio companies, like, you can't just replicate that. They had all these, you'd have to replicate the whole timeline of their entrepreneur journey, which you couldn't, to get there. And so when you go a layer deeper, there's the identity behind it. There is Alex and Layla's strengths. Alex's is marketing, Layla's is operations. There is their unique creative expression. There's their entire experience of all the things that led to their business journey. And this is where, the game is honestly so fun, because there is no one right way to do things. And our brain loves to break things down into very black and white, into tell me the right and the wrong strategy. Tell me how many times to post. Tell me if I should do a webinar funnel. Should I live launch? Should I have this type of an offer? And this is where it can be frustrating, because there is no right or wrong. There is unlimited ways to grow a successful business. because also there are ways that people haven't even proven yet that they will, right? There's constantly opportunity for new ways of doing things, new models, new problems to solve. And that is where the visionary, unique person you are gets to come in. And that's also why I am so obsessed and so passionate about your connection back to yourself. Because nothing can trump that. Nothing can beat that connection. And I know this because I've seen it over and over again, that all of the things you are trying to outsource to a coach, to a mentor, to somebody who's ahead of you, to a friend that you look up to, whatever, all of those things you're trying to outsource, you really do already know. You are just waiting for permission. You are waiting for validation. You are waiting for clarity to come from somebody else, or you're allowing fear to drive things because you don't trust yourself. And absolutely, is it helpful to have other perspectives? I love having a coach. I am in multiple masterminds. I have coaches for different things in different areas of my life, 100%. But those never override me. And any good coach, any good mentor should be turning you back to yourself. I think it's a huge red flag if they're not. If they're like, do what I say, override your misalignment if you have it. And so it's great to get perspective, but never lose that connection and align your business and your strategy and how you spend your time and how you spend your energy with what you're naturally good at, and it will be a massive competitive advantage. And stop getting caught up in needing the tactics or the strategies or the mechanics of what somebody else is doing, and get clear on what's the intention, where am I going, what is the objective here, and what do I already know is true. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. The second thing that was on my mind today that I just wanted to share, because I just think it's such an important message for entrepreneurs, is I think that we can get caught in a thought loop of expecting business to get to a place where it's easy. Or what I've seen a lot is entrepreneurs where they go through a struggling time in their business, whether that's team is a big one that causes a lot of people stress. Team is probably the hardest part and best part of business. But whether it's team or operations, whether it's cash flow, whether it's sales, whether it's marketing, like they hit this point where it's challenging, and they convince themselves that if they had a different business in a different industry or selling a different offer or whatever, like completely changing things. And this is where that feeling of an entrepreneur, we've all been there, right? Where you have a day where like, burn it all down. Like, I don't want to do this anymore, burn it all down. And this kind of delusion of there is a world where it's all easy. And I reminded myself of this today, as it was just one of those days. It was one of those days where I was just hit with like 4 things first thing in the morning, email, this thing, like nothing crazy, but just, oh my God, seriously, was how I felt, right? And I had this thought of like, I wonder if I could, have an 8-figure business that is not in this industry. Like I had that thought. Of course, it was fleeting, but I'm like, that doesn't exist, right? This dream of easy, of not having to navigate a challenge or have stress or have pressure or have overwhelm or a fire happen in a business. It just doesn't exist. And I think not enough people talk about that. And so because not enough people talk about it, especially with social media, it's such a highlight reel. It's such like, let me just show you the good. But I have seen behind a lot of businesses, 8-figure down to brand new, like my family's an entrepreneur, my mom, my dad, my brother now. I've seen behind the scenes a lot. And I have yet to find a business that's like perfectly, smoothly run every single day, easy. Everything's always working between marketing and sales and operations and team and all the things. It just doesn't exist. You'll have weeks where everything's great. And then You'll have a season where it's not, and maybe it's a day, maybe it's a week. And I also think that's the way life is. Brooke Castillo, who I used to follow a lot, I don't listen to as much of her content anymore, but I really liked her content. And she talked about the 50%, 50-50, which is life for everyone, no matter what level you're at, no matter how successful you are, is 50% happy, 50% the other emotions, sad, frustrated, overwhelmed. And I constantly find myself coming back to that because I think in the moments where you are feeling one of those emotions of overwhelm or stress or angry or sad, you think that you're not supposed to. You're like, I don't want to feel this. Something is wrong if I'm feeling this. I need to shift my life, or it's my business, or it's my partner, it's my friend, or whatever. And if you look at it instead of like, no matter what, it's just 50-50. It's 50% good, 50% bad, no matter what level you're at, then you're like, okay, I'm just riding a wave of that 50%. And then of course, when you make those emotions go into thoughts and beliefs and actions, that's a whole different level to that of everything really is driven by an emotion, right? How we feel, we actually do have some control over. We can focus on gratitude and we can focus on joy and we can actually create those emotions in our body without suppressing and overriding the other emotions. But they're just that, they're emotions, they're energy in motion, right? And so they're temporary. When we then make it mean something and we go, because I'm overwhelmed, that means that my business is not working, or that means that this isn't working. Sometimes that could mean that, and sometimes it doesn't. You have to check those thoughts. If you're overwhelmed every single day and you actually have a misalignment in your business, maybe that should drive some of your actions. Your emotions can be a signal in that, but not every single time. And when you allow your emotions to own you and run those thoughts and beliefs, now you no longer are in control of the one thing you can be in control of, which is how you show up. So anyways, I was having this morning, I was driving with my kid and I was frustrated at myself because I let myself get spiraled a little bit into this message with a team that I needed to respond to something and get back to something. And I was like, Emily, if you wait 2 hours to respond to this, it is not the end of the world. I think that's what gets to me sometimes is the urgency at which life tries to pull you in, right? We definitely live in a time where everybody expects an answer immediately or a response immediately, including me. Like when I ask something, I love to get the response right back, right? Like speed, I love it. But life is going to draw you into that constantly, to the noise, to the stress, to the urgency, and you don't have to always choose it. And so I was having one of those mornings where I was like 4 things thrown at me, and I had that thought, just fleeting thought of like, I wonder if I should just totally have a different business model. And of course, no, I shouldn't. But it's like that lie that we believe that it's not supposed to have challenges, that life is not supposed to have challenges, that business can get to this place where it's easy and smooth all the time. And it's just not reality. And I find myself, the more that I accept that the challenges are part of the game, and I'm just like, oh, here we go. We'll solve this. It'll be fine. In a week, we won't even remember this. The more I accept the challenges, the easier they are. It's when I resist them and I tell myself there's something wrong and this happening means there's something wrong, there's something we're doing wrong, there's something wrong with the model, there's something wrong with the industry, whatever, and I feed into that then I have more resistance and I'm trying to make it wrong versus just accept it and move through it. So I say this because I want you guys to understand, I don't care what level you're at. You could be just starting your business. You could be making 6 figures. You could be making 7. You could be making 8. You could be making any number. I have 8 and 9-figure business owner friends. Everyone has challenges. Everyone has days they want to burn it all down. Everyone has pressure, has overwhelm, just at different levels and different places, but it is part of this game. And every human has life things that is giving that 50-50. The 50% joy and happy and excited and 50% sad and upset and angry. And that is the human experience, period. Like there's no exception to that. we convince ourselves that there is a place that we can get to where that doesn't happen. It's like, if I just get my business to this revenue number, if I just fix my marketing, if I just hire this team member, if I just leave my marriage, if I just have kids, like all these things that we externally convince ourselves that once we have it, then we'll be happy. I think we know that that's the biggest lie, but we convince ourselves of that, then we chase it, and then guess what? It happens, and we still have the same 50-50 experience of 50% positive, 50% negative emotions. So the more we can just accept it, the easier it is. And I just had that reminder today. And I've also witnessed this in a lot of entrepreneurs where they lean too hard into a hard season and think, this means I need to blow up my business. This means I need to totally pivot. I need to pivot offers. I need to pivot industries, and I'm going to blow this up, and I'm going to start from the beginning. And, maybe sometimes that's the right choice, but I think that it's never the wrong choice. You can do whatever you want, right? But have you convinced yourself that that's going to, back to kind of this idea of where's it coming from? What's the connection back to yourself? Are you running from something, or is this really in alignment? And only you can really answer that. But definitely don't get caught up in the lie that we tell ourselves that there is a world where close to 100% of the time, it's all positive and good. And, this is where I get frustrated with social media to an extent, because there are people who spew on social media like, I don't work very much and my life is so easy and I make 7 figures and, whatever. Those messages. And it's like, I guarantee you, if I pulled the cover back behind that business, there's struggles, there's challenges, there's pressure, there's things that didn't work. There's days where that person felt overwhelmed or stressed. I guarantee you. I saw this video the other day that was like, if you're a small business owner and basically like things are perfect, you're either like out of business or lying. I don't know, something like that. Just something that like everybody has these struggles. These are normal. Let's normalize these. So that's what I'm doing. Is I had a morning and I'm like, if the more that I just lean into it and go, all right, I'm here for the ride. But what lesson is this here to teach us? Because I've talked about this so much on the podcast, but anything that is a quote negative experience, like let's say for me, sometimes it's like when a team member leaves. Initially, I will feel like, oh no, I want to save this and I want to control this. And this means that XYZ about the team and it's going to mean this. And then it's like every single time, without a doubt, 100% of the time, it has always led to either realizing we didn't even need that role and we could move things around, or somebody better in the next role. And I've gotten to a point when things like that happen that I'm like, I trust. I fully trust. I've got that tattooed on me because I'm constantly reminding myself of that. So those are 2 lessons and just kind of relevant things on my mind that I wanted to share today. Hopefully you guys got some value from that. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will talk to you guys next week.